Later today, the meeting descended into chaos last night following a proposal that the party Secretary-General Ace Magashule and other leaders charged with corruption step aside or face suspension. For more on the story, we're now joined by the ANC spokesperson, Pule Mabe. A very good day to you, Mr. Mabe. When is the meeting resuming?
Good day, Sis Desiree, and thanks for inviting us. I must just correct the last part of what you said when you said the meeting descended into chaos. I don't think that's a correct reflection. Hence, we had agreed to come through so that we can really clarify what happened. There was nothing chaotic about the meeting of the National Executive Committee. What had happened was that the meeting started on Friday. It had quite a number of issues to process. So given the time to process all of those issues, there would not have been sufficient space to conclude. What happens in the ANC is that at the conclusion of the National Executive Committee, there would be a recordal of the different decisions that the Secretary-General's office would have captured. Those are then presented to the NEC for ratification. Once ratified, the President then does a closing address which captures critical decisions taken by the NEC. The following day, will then issue a statement, a more broad statement by the Secretary-General of the African National Congress, now conveying and communicating all of the decisions. What we then do afterwards, we'll then do what we call an NEC bulletin, which captures the decisions and then goes to all our structures. So this is consistent with the practice. Now, we had gone on with the meeting because of the number of reports that were before the NEC. We dealt with the issue of COVID-19, vaccine rollout, tertiary education, finalization of the NYTT by the national officials working together with the provinces, dealing with the reports of the Integrity Commission. I mean, this was quite a very detailed, some of these were quite detailed reports, annual reports of the African National Congress, getting all of the cadres to engage, the filling of the vacancy of the National Working Committee, which had been necessitated by one member of the NWC leading the structure to go and perform a role outside the country, Comrade Noma Indian and Feke. So you'd imagine all of these issues had to be processed. Now we were now at a point where we needed to now finalize and ratify all of those decisions, follow that through with a closing address. Now we said, because we couldn't conclude given the time, also that some of the comrades who are leading in the African National Congress are also employees in government. For instance, the president of the ANC is also the president of the Republic. He had other commitments of national importance. He's out in the Eastern Cape today, visiting the site that is manufacturing vaccines there. That is a very important assignment that he also has got to be seen performing on behalf of the rest of South Africa's people. We then agreed that the most feasible thing to do would be to meet later this afternoon to then conclude on the outstanding business of the National Executive Committee and then be able to communicate in a much more elaborate manner decisions of the National Executive Committee.
I hear what you're saying, but are you then confirming to us that the African National Congress is not able to efficiently organize its own agendas?
No, we are very, I don't know where I said that and why would I have to confirm something I didn't say. We have got our agenda. We dealt with all the issues. When at the conclusion of the National Executive Committee, we are then presented with decisions, recordal of decisions for ratification. Once the NEC ratifies decisions, which has been practiced, then the president will then do the closing address. The plan would have been to have the closing address of the president open to the media as well. We had spoken to the SABC and all other media outlets and had prepared them for something like that, because there is nothing to really hide in terms of decisions that the ANC arrives at.
The SG matter that came up at the meeting, what is the general sentiment in terms of how this should be handled?
Well, I sit in that National Executive Committee. I don't know of any SG matter that came up because we don't have the issue of the SG on the agenda of the National Executive Committee. Safe to say that when the NEC concludes later this evening, it will be able to communicate its decisions. You see, once we start communicating issues in bits and bits and then deny the public a fair opportunity to interact with decisions of the African National Congress, then we again allow our decisions to be misinterpreted. So we need to be coming out with decisions that have been agreed upon by the National Executive Committee and communicate out to the public in that way.
So you're categorically saying there was no dealing with the SG at this weekend's NEC meeting?
Well, let me assist you, Desiree. The National Executive Committee of the ANC deals with a number of issues. What we communicate out to the public as spokespersons of the ANC are decisions of the National Executive Committee. It's not discussions in the NEC. We've never done that, and we're not about to do it today.
What will be on the agenda for the meeting that's due this afternoon?
Well, really, it's just to finalize the ratification of all of those decisions and then do the closing address and then convey and communicate our decisions out to the public and the media.
Thanks for speaking to us. Pule Mabe is the national spokesperson of the African National Congress. Now to this story.